The sunset on Thursday night, March 13th, 1997. Just anxious to see how this color is going to come out, because what I'm looking at the monitor isn't near as pretty as the real sunset. So I'm going to have to change the color tone. Goodness, beautiful sunset. Going around now to checking where the big event will be.
Oh wait, Will, you want us to walk up?
I knew.
Get out there by the balloons, maybe.
Oh my gosh, look what's coming in here. They just left the median down at Grant and Swan.
We took the train down
very
to
nice,
half day tour.
very
We did
nice.
see some highlights, and then we took the train back at night and Florida.
Okay, so we want
Well, I
everybody
really,
to
really and truly, if you're gonna
get in
spend
their
time
seats.
with one of the other Florence on
Joe says he can't make fun of, you know, Gary's wife Leslie is, you know, married to Wright, Ruth Wright, Ken Wright, and Ruth, you know, they're always invited.
Oh, Joe.
All their friends over.
And then there's it.
See all the pictures of their friends.
There was Bud up ahead.
For themselves, and they stuff Joseph. Like they had to clean the room.
I got the pizza coming in. Oh, good.
Not my dad, that's
Hey, then we'll
Don't
probably
sit down until October.
come back and all. What happened to him?
I didn't touch it.
And then with Joe, my wife drank my martini.
She's in that mode.
Friends coming in from Australia, and we're gonna travel. Well, I gotta find my. We have a conference to go to.
You're right over here.
So we're all gonna travel together and see the fun day.
No, you just think you're at the fun. Changes everything. But it
We need to pass the No, it's very now.
Yes.
What's that? About 3 o'clock in the afternoon, there was a thunderstorm. This is so dark. I mean, it's wonderful. Dark skies, they're scary. And lightning everywhere. And it's just so, and then it cools down about 20 minor.
Nothing wrong with that.
And it's kind of fun. Those are fun. Thunderstorms.
Joe, my husband is
Nothing wrong with that.
thinking in your refrigerator.
Harassment in the town.
And now it's overrun, all roads are clogged going in and out of town.
Do we have to sit down now?
Yes, you do.
Where?
I'll sit next to you.
And you?
Oh, great.
Just all of the RVers.
You old produce men.
It should be a little bit more.
Oh, that's there. This is wonderful. Did you get an hors d'oeuvre, Frank?
The audience is getting restless. Well, we'll fix
The
that.
natives are getting restless.
Oh, that's pretty limb here.
Wait a minute now.
Don't forget to turn it off.
Yeah, don't worry.
You do realize why we're doing this.
We don't need any introduction.
Because, okay.
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 Are we on?
Hey, it's time for the
Now we have the
Let's hear it for
doggone
the
machines
commodity.
running.
The commode.
Finally. I wouldn't have to do
cheers.
this if I did it right the first time.
Oh,
Well, folks, I made this podium today, and I know you'd never guess that. So that makes me either a podiumist or a podiatrist. I'm not sure which one. This is the program that was originally given for this astute group. It's very close to the word stupid, but that's my high school class. And they put up with me. There were 174 of the graduates and their spouses and friends that came back to this thing. Now you guys have to put up with the fact that you've heard most of these stories, but I went back 30 years.
Oh!
They did that all the worst stories. Some of them
Can anybody go back that far? Can anybody go back that
30 years.
far?
Well, you each get a copy of my Uncle Jack's book, Shorts, which is on the coffee table in there, because everybody at that reunion got one. So there. And I need to read you first my 3 favorite jokes out of that book. This is just nothing but one-liners from good old Uncle Jack. Did you have sex education when you were a kid? No. Every time I asked what the boy dog and the girl dog were doing in the yard, I was told they were dancing. I didn't know the difference until I went to the junior-senior prom, and I was suspended from school. Now, this is in the book, so you have all.
It's published.
Just write it down.
Can't blame you. Can't blame you. It's in the book.
People ask me how we've stayed married so long. This is Uncle Jack talking. For over 50 years. Well, here's the secret. My wife and I go to a lovely romantic restaurant twice a week. A little candlelight, a little wine. She goes on Tuesdays, I go on Thursdays.
Great solution.
But it makes sense. I mean,
That's great.
and this is my favorite of all of them in that book. I know a gas station owner who thinks it's funny to keep a prophylactic dispenser on the wall of his women's restroom. However, he never puts any condoms in the machine. He says, I get money out of that machine every week, but I never get any complaints from the women. One last one. Social Security makes for a very logical sequence of events. To pay for it, all our lives we have to work like a dog, so that when we retire, we can eat Alpo. I never really believed retired people were eating dog food until that poll came out. The one that lists their 4 favorite forms of recreation: golf, television, shuffleboard, and chasing cars. Now remember, this program was originally given in September of '96, so talking about the presidential campaign, they said that Dole and Clinton were in a dead heat. Dole's dead and Clinton's in heat. So Clinton's so far ahead he started dating again. Okay, this is one of my favorites. Clifford May wrote this article about how to tell if you're a liberal or conservative. It says, a conservative is always willing to sell you the shirt off his back. A liberal is always willing to give you the shirt off of somebody else's back.
That's true.
Conservatives like Leave It to Beaver. Liberals like Leave It to Beavis and Butthead. Conservatives say the opera ain't over till the fat lady sings. Liberals say the opera ain't over until a female artist victimized by Western cultural and aesthetic stereotyping performs. Conservatives who used to be liberals are called neoconservatives. Liberals who used to be conservatives are called federal grant recipients. Conservatives say there's more than one way to skin a cat. Liberals say cats have rights too, you know. Okay, then with regard to reunion type stuff, and this has happened to me many times, and I'm sure has happened to you. When you go through this big doings and somebody comes up to you and says, "You don't remember me, do you?" You say, "Sure, I remember you. Your face isn't familiar, but what's your name?" And this from the Groundhog Day reunion a little over a year ago. These are some comments from a group of things called wonderings. Why isn't phonetics spelled the way it sounds? Why is brassiere singular and panties plural? You know that. You know that you know that little indestructible box that excuse me, the little indestructible box that is used on planes. Why can't they make the whole plane out of that same stuff?
The black box.
If firefighters fight fire and crime fighters fight crime, what do freedom fighters fight? Okay, now we're gonna get into the good stuff. This is days gone by. You know how you can tell when you've had a good time the night before? Because you look like your driver's license picture the next morning.
I just want to wait when I'm done.
Oh, that's good. Nobody sees my
And this one night, Friday night, the guy'd been on the road all week traveling all over the country, flying, and he was really beat. It had not been a good week, so he got on this airliner and he decided to go sit clear in the back by himself, and where nobody would bother him, and he could just sit there and have 2 or 3 martinis and eat and sleep till he got home. Well, he gets back there. Here's the plane almost empty, but in comes the lady with a little baby and sits down in the next 2 seats right next to him. He was next to the window. And he thought, I got to do something about this. So he said, lady, that is really the ugliest baby I've ever seen. Looks like a damn monkey. Boy, she was incensed. She rang the call button and the flight attendant came up and she says, yes ma'am. Would you like some coffee, tea, or milk, or maybe a banana for your monkey?
That's a good one.
Write it down.
I'll share any of these you want. The 3 most dreaded words you can hear when you're having sex. Honey, I'm home.
Don't you laugh too much.
Ed, you're laughing too much.
This got to be one of the favorite ones of all time. The savoir-faire story.
Oh,
Yeah.
best of
When
all.
these 3 Frenchmen were sitting out in a cafe in Paris on a sunny afternoon and sipping their wine, and they'd really run out of things to talk about. They got to talking about the term savoir-faire, how it was used in the French language and in the French words in all other languages, but they were trying to, they were agreeing that it meant how one came out, conducted himself in a given set of circumstances to come out in the most discreet manner. But they were arguing about an example of savoir-faire. And the first Frenchman says, well, monsieur, savoir-faire is when you come home unexpectedly and you find a strange man in bed with your wife, instead of creating a fuss, making a scene, you say to him, monsieur, I would like to speak with you outside. This is savoir-faire. And the second one says, no. Savoir-faire is when you come home unexpectedly and you find a strange man in bed with your wife. And you say to him, monsieur, when you are finished, I would like to speak with you outside. This is savoir-faire. The third fellow took a little sip of wine, stroked his goatee, and he says, no. Savoir-faire is when you are in bed with someone else's wife, and he comes home unexpectedly, and he says to you, monsieur, when you are finished, I would like to speak with you outside, and if you can finish.
You should blush.
She is blushing. See how red the
Well, Mame called me up the other day and she says, we won the lottery, start packing. I said, where are we going, honey? She says, no place, you're moving out. I heard this, in fact, I heard this at church last Sunday.
Yes.
Honest Injun, the preacher told this story. He said this, he built it up a little differently, but they talk about the Texas skier and the Colorado skier in the bar after a hard day skiing. The Texan was doing his usual about bragging about things, and he says, you know, my ranch, we got this big old ranch out in Texas. He said, it is so big, he said, I can get in my pickup at sunrise, and I can drive all day long, and when sunset comes, I'm still not to the other edge of that ranch. The Colorado ranchers took a little sip, and he says, yeah, I had a pickup like that once. That was the preacher pulled out of that. I really laughed. Then the Texas joke, the guy bought the place out in West Texas. He's been a hard driving businessman for years. You recognize it from coming up. And he'd had all the pounding and for the bucks that he ever wanted. He was like about 40 and he'd made lots of money. So he bought this big old remote ranch in West Texas. And he got a little truck and they moved him out there and they had just an old beat up sofa on the porch and he took in his few belongings and sat out there and thought, man, am I glad to be out of that rat race back on the East Coast. And he's sitting there and pretty soon he sees this cloud of dust coming up the little road and he sees it getting closer and he says, oh yeah, somebody's coming onto my property. This little guy pulls up this little beat up pickup and he hops out in his bib overall, big punchy guy, and said, hi, pardon me, he says, you the new owner? He said, yes, I am. And he said, well, I'm your nearest neighbor, about 30 miles over that way. He says, I just came to welcome you and invite you over for a get acquainted party. And he said, well, that's mighty nice of you. He says, but I had all the partying and the big high living and everything that I need forever. He said, appreciate that. And the guy said, now wait a minute, before you turn me down, he said, let me tell you about this party. He said, there's going to be a lot of drinking, just about anything you want, wine, beer, hard booze, anything you want. We're going to have all kinds of eats, you know, chicken and beef and all the trimmings and other stuff. And he said, and there'll be some dancing and some hand holding, a little kissing, probably a little screwing and maybe a fight or two will break out. The guy says, wow, that sounds like a hell of a party. He says, I guess I'll come after all. I said, what should I wear? He says, don't make no never mind, it's going to be you and me.
Hey, we found it. I hadn't heard it That is fantastic. Oh, God.
That's a good one.
Here's some others that we read at the groundhog party that you kind of like. You know you're getting older when your little black book contains only names ending in MD. You turn out the light for economic rather than romantic reasons. You sit in a rocking chair and you can't get it going. You regret all those temptations you resisted.
I like that one.
The best part of your day is over when the alarm clock goes off. You get all your exercises being pallbearer for your friends who exercise. You sink your teeth into a steak and they stay there.
Oh, God.
Fran, this is the one I was telling you about, that you were worried about where your jewelry is.
Okay.
Guy got his physical and the doctor called him and he says, well, Joe, I got bad news for you. He says, actually, I got two pieces of bad news. He says, well, what is it? And he says, well, first of all, it looks like you got Alzheimer's. And he said, the other part of the bad news, you've got AIDS. And old Joe thought a minute. He says, well, thank God I don't have AIDS.
He's definitely got all of
There
it.
you go.
This could fit with old George down at the resting place. Well, that sounds right. But he's only got two other people there, and I don't know if they're men or women. But anyway, this old guy in the nursing home sits down, and one of the ladies there, and he sits there with her, and he says, kind of lacking for conversation, he says, I bet you don't know how old I am. She says, I bet I do. And she says, stand up there and take your clothes off. He looked at her kind of funny. He stood up, took his clothes off down to nothing, and she says, you're 92. He said, how'd you know that? She says, you told me yesterday. Okay, and then we we close with a little prayer, a wheat prayer. God is good, God is fair. Some He gave brains, some He gave hair. That's all I got left.
No, encore, come on, encore.
Is he gonna do the same thing?
The longest day, Joe.
This is the longest. When I told Tom I was going to do this program, he said, "Why don't you do that longest day?" And of course, at my age, I'd forgotten about most of it. Rethought it, and this happened in August of 1948. I was going to go meet my buddy Walt Wilkinson that I'd met in the Army. He lived in Greeley, actually, a town called LaSalle, south of Greeley, where his dad was a doctor. And I was going to take my 39 Ford and drive up there, and we were going to go up to CU and find an apartment for him, because we were both starting to CU that next month in September '48. So I get in my little Ford, I'm all ready to go. It's about 5 a.m. I want to get a good start for a long day, can make a weekend out of it. Pull out, and here's the family cat in the street in front of the house. Been hit by a car, dead in the doornail. And our family were big cat lovers, so I had to stop and bring the cat in and get it buried and kind of leave a note and then go. So I got on the road. Of course, there were no interstates at that time, so I'm whipping along my little 39 Ford, and I get up to Denver, and I have to stop and pay a little fine that I picked up a ticket the week before. I was passing the streetcar on the wrong side. So I paid this fine. It wasn't speeding, I don't think, but anyway. So I drive my Ford up there, and I'm pushing the limit. I'm going, 60, 65 on the 2-lane highway, 85 from Pueblo up to Denver. Coming to a parallel park in front of where I pay the fine. Stick the back end in, cut the front, and something goes, the tie rod just dropped. Two front wheels are pointing opposite directions. And I've been driving like that.
Just a little bit louder.
So I'd been really pushing it, and I thought, well, I'm mighty lucky. So I called my buddy, and I said, I'm going to be a little late. I did get the fine paid, but then I had to hitchhike up to Greeley. So I hitchhiked up there, and undaunted, we were ready to go. And he had a used Indian motorcycle. And so we were going to take his Indian motorcycle and head on to Boulder and finish doing our stuff. Well, we take off in this motorcycle, and we get about 20 miles out of Greeley, and it throws a rod. Boom! So it's dead meat. So there we are, and we call his mom. She comes out with her car, and so if you ever try to tow a motorcycle, that's a challenge right there. So I had to get him on the motorcycle, and then I had to run along and push, keep him upright to get him started, and then hop on behind him, and we towed the motorcycle back. Got to his place, and his dad, being a doctor, had about 6 rooms that they, kind of a mini hospital they had in LaSalle. His dad had this 39 Lincoln Zephyr. This is a 9-year-old, really fancy car, like having a 450 Mercedes today, but anyway.
Like Buds.
Yeah, a lot like Buds. And, a 12-cylinder Lincoln. And so we hop in this car and we head for Boulder. Well, by the time all this has happened, it's too late to say anybody about apartments or anything. So we thought, hell, let's go on up to Estes Park, because his buddy was working up there and had a little apartment. So we thought we'd go up there and have a few beers with his buddy, and we'd sleep there on the floor at his buddy's house. Well, we take off. We're going through, on the way up, we go through the little town of Lyons. And of course, this was back in angle parking days. We're driving along, not paying that much attention. Somebody pulls out an angle parking, says, bam! We hit him. And there goes the right, this is like a tank hitting them, but it still took out the right front headlight, fender, and all this. State patrolman comes, writes us up. And so we're still undaunted. We're still going to Estes. So we went on to Estes, got all the way up there, went in and partied with the buddies and everything else, and then found out that the guy had too many people sleep on his floor, and there was no place for us to stay. So probably around 12:31, we headed back down, and we were really bushed and lots of beers. And So we figured we'd listen to 2 songs on the radio and then stop the car and change drivers.
You were
No
seeing
more than
double.
2 songs, you got that right. And so is he. And so Wilkie and I were taking turns,
This was the same day that the cat got
this
run
was
off.
all the same day.
All the same, the long day.
Now it's about 2:30 or 3 in the morning, and we're heading back down, and so I even forget, I wouldn't know how to explain this, but the road turns as you go into Lyons, and if you go straight, you go up the North St. Vrain, and we were coming down the South St. Vrain. But you're supposed to turn left and go on through town. Well, I was driving and just dozed right past it. Missed the turn. I'm on the other highway going up, come to the St. Vrain River, and by then I just gone off, and we just missed the bridge abutment and a big concrete thing where they have an irrigation deal on the side. There's about 12 feet in between these. Right in between there, shot off about a 16-foot little cliff drop into the river. And this is a mountain stream. So
This is still the Lincoln Center.
all of a sudden, you know, and I'm awake, but hey, I didn't see anything coming or no adrenaline pumping. It's a nice quiet little river, and we're see headlights on this water, and lights of this houses go on all around. People come and get us. Well, Wilkie had a broken arm in this exercise. I didn't get hurt, but the car had a twisted frame. So they called the stater. Guess who came? Same stater. He said, "This just isn't a good day for you boys." We also called Wilkie's dad, and so the time he came and got us, drove us to Greeley to his house.
What car
It
was he using
Oh,
then?
he had doctor's had one. So he came, probably the same car his mom used to tow the motorcycle. By the time we got in, the sun was just coming up, and it was 5 a.m. 24 hours for this sequence.
The longest day. Time to go to school.
That's enough of that, yeah. So that's the program. Now I get to finish my drink and jump right on about 7 more.
Well done.
Is
Okay,
it,
have
the
you
corner's
finished your
still
drink yet?
running?
Well done.
Well, we'll see when I try and look at this stuff,
Okay.
but not now.
Very good, Joe, very good.
That
Well,
was
thank you for all putting up with that.
Great, Joe.
Oh,
Mine,
that was
I
really
think
good.
you had mine the year before.
What's that?
Little red.
You told us to be a
Ed and I,
Wait a second, I did some messaging tonight.
Ed and I had a date in Los Alamos, and we had met in, where was it, Rocky Ford? Is that where we met? At a party. And he was doing his rounds for his...
He was a bag, he
Yeah.
was
He
a
hadn't
bag
been married.
salesman.
Bag
He
salesman.
He told
Right.
you, he told you he wasn't married.
And, yeah, he told me he wasn't married.
That's right.
And,
no, why don't you
So-
scoot over here, I'm getting your bald head right here.
anyway, when...
And I don't mind it, but I think you won't
we went out, we had a grand old time, we went
Good,
to, I
that's
don't know how
close.
many places. We went out for cocktails, we went to a party, we went to, I don't know what all. But the whole sum and substance of it was that by the time we finished the evening, Ed was saying to me, "Boy, it's just been a wonderful time."
I've heard him talk like
I'm
that.
gonna see you next time around, you know, and bye-bye. And I said, "Why didn't you come in for a cup of coffee?" "Oh, God, no, I hate coffee." And I don't ever drink coffee.
At 2 o'clock in the morning.
And I
don't
said,
like coffee.
"Well, how about another drink?" "Oh, well, okay, that's a good idea." So in he came to the apartment, and I said to my roommate, "I've got a person here that I think shouldn't be driving."
A live one.
And Gail said, that she said, "I think so too, I think you're right, I don't think you should be driving at all." So I said, "Well, Ed, you like another drink?" "All right, that sounds good." So I gave him a drink. We re-sabotaged it, because at this point, he was ready to get up and walk out and go driving. And we both said, no way could this guy drive anywhere. So when he refused coffee and refused, you know, like to sober up in any way, the conventional form, we said, okay, then let's just get him so drunk that he has to go to bed and sleep and he can't leave. So this is what we
He
did.
didn't say guards more wine,
We
did he?
just fed him about 3 more drinks until finally he said, "I've really got to go." And he collapsed. And he spent the night, and of course that was back in the days when people didn't spend the night at other places' apartment.
right.
Yeah.
And we had to
Especially
sneak him out of
girls
the
that tried
apartment.
to take advantage of it.
Yeah. Oh, wait, we want to hear your story.
So we had to sneak him out in the morning without anybody seeing that somebody had been in our apartment all night long. The whole thing was very innocent, but didn't look that way from the
Sure, it doesn't
outside.
sound that way to me either.
Yeah, I remember
Couldn't
that.
tell that in the modern day society.
You don't remember it.
Yeah, I do.
He re-
Look at him blush.
He does, he turns bright red, he goes, "You remember?"
the thing is
Must
with
have
And how come you told me you'd never been in Los Alamos?
But I'll tell you, Ed, what I thought was interesting is your Irish really came out. Because after a few drinks, nobody was going to stop you. You were going to do what you were going to do.
Macho.
We weren't men, so you weren't going to fight us. But you weren't going to accept coffee either, by damn God. I'm going to go on. I can do it all by myself. And that's why we decided we had to get you so drunk you couldn't walk anyway.
Damn, why don't they do that anymore?
Now they won't want you to go somewhere. Yeah, that was good.
Oh yeah, that
I
was.
remember I didn't feel too good the next day driving down that.
I can imagine. I can imagine you didn't feel very
Where
good.
were you going from Los Alamos to where?
Well, I traveled,
To the hospital.
I traveled northern New Mexico and southern Colorado, so I was down there on business.
Oh, yeah, right.
Yeah, monkey.
Well, I was up in Los Alamos trying to sell
What I
bags.
wanna know is, she says that you told her you weren't married, so were you or weren't you?
No, no. This was way back in these single days.
I mean, that was, I wasn't married the first time.
Oh. Yeah, but who's counting, right?
Jose didn't tell him the soup, he says. I believe we'll just have the soup.
I sitting down at the end of the bar, and you know, nobody's in the bar except this guy way down there and the bartender. So he's looking down there and he says, "Hey," he says, "don't I know you?" And the guy down at the end of the bar says, "No, I don't think so." He says, "Where are you from?" The guy says, "I'm from Baton Rouge." And he says, He said, "Well, I'm from Baton Rouge." The guy said, "Yeah, right, yeah." He said, "Where'd you go to high school down there?" I said, "I went to Central." This guy said, "I went to Central." Is that right? Yeah. He said, "Well, where'd you live down there?" So I lived on Long Street. He said, "Well, I lived on Long Street." And about that time the phone rang, the bartender picked it up, and the owner said, "Anything going on down there tonight?" And he said, "No, just the Bardot twins are in here drunk again."
Drink. Okay, Fran.
Fran, tell him about the reef club down there.
Oh, yeah, right. Right, that's no joke.
Well, it's just true. It's just funny.
Oh, I can't think of one. If I think of one, I'll.
No, tell him about that
You'll
reef.
signal, okay.
Tell him about that reef.
Wait a minute, start over. Pick up your glasses. You got a shadow right across your eyes. There you go.
Rose are red, violets are blue. I'm a schizophrenic, and so am I.
Oh, that's great.
You have to tell Pat Fleming's story about, tell it all, brother.
Oh no!
I wouldn't have said that.
I could tell the one about the guy that St. Peter was checking them in as they come in,
Oh,
and so the
Smokey Bear story. You gotta tell
yeah,
that.
that's, oh okay, yeah, that's the one. So
I
anyway,
think we're gonna put you up there. I won't have to.
So yeah, I am today. Well, no, wait a minute. So anyway, this St. Peter's checking them out, and he's 3 requirements to get into heaven. You have to be courteous, you have to be brave, and you have to be honest. So this black guy comes up before him. He says, "Well, you know the requirements." And he says, "Well," he says, I was pretty courteous. He said, I helped a lot of people in my life and helped people. Some people that were in bad shape, I helped them and did a lot of things for them. I helped old ladies across the street. And, you know, he said, I really tried to do the right thing, being courteous and everything. So St. Peter looked, he said, when did all this happen? He said, well, from about 45 on. St. Peter said, thumbed his book, and he says, had his name there. He said, yeah. I said, 45. Yeah, he said, it's in here. He said, okay, go on in. So the next guy, he says, Chinaman comes in, he says, you know the rules. And so the Chinaman said, yeah. He says, well, he said, how about, what did you do with one of those three? And he said, well, I was pretty honest. He said, I found a wallet with $500 in it one time. And he said, it was in Chicago. And he said, I took it back to the owner, called him up, gave it back to him. And he said, he even gave me a $10 reward for that.
Speak up, bud,
So
I can't hear you.
So anyway, St. Peter said, when this happened, he said this was in July of '66. And so St. Peter thumbed through his book. Yeah, he said, it's in here. He said, you can go on in. So here comes Julio. So I says, Julio, you know the rules. He said, you gotta tell me what you did. He said, well, I was pretty honest. No, I was pretty brave. He said, I was really brave. He says, what happened? He says, well, one time, he says, I was trying to cross down there, and that Border Patrol, that Smokey Bear guy, he gets me, and he said he made me really mad. And he says, I took off I jerked that Smokey Bear hat off his, I threw it on the ground, I stomped on it, and I threw it right out in the river. And then he says, I took it out and I wet all up and down his pants, right in front of him. And St. Peter said, well, when did this happen? He said, about 5 minutes ago in El Paso.
I don't see your name in the book.
You're a dead man.
Oh, God. That's good.
Wait a minute, that's the guy went in the bar.
What's happening?
Guy went in the bar.
Well, this gal went in the bar and she had a duck under her arm. And the bartender said, oh, she had that's good.
Oh, bud.
Well, I can't remember.
Well, let
right,
Fran tell it.
bud.
You ready to tell it?
I don't know what.
You're just copping out on this whole deal.
How does the joke start?
Why did you?
And he walked in the bar and he had this little piano, put it up on the bar. And he had this little piano player. He put him up there and this little guy.
About a foot high, wasn't it?
Playing away, just playing away. And the guy said, Jesus, crying. The bartender said, where in the hell did you get that? And he says, I was walking down the beach and he said, I uncovered this bottle in the sand. And he said, I just rubbed that bottle and make a wish. And the genie came out and said, you rub this bottle and make a wish. Anything you want will come true. And the bartender said, God dang, that's great. He said, I wish I had that bottle. And the guy said, here, I got it in my pocket. Gave it to him. He said, make a wish. So the guy said, I wish I had a lot of bucks. About that time, the door flew open, and all these ducks started flying in there and just coming in like crazy. And the guy said, what the hell did I do wrong? And the guy said, you don't think I asked for a 10-inch penis, do you?
So I think that genie's a little deaf. I'm sure Sal didn't ask for a 10-inch, 12-inch penis. We can collaborate on it. Now, where are the girls?
One of your compadres. About the guy that, you heard this before, but the guy that was a construction
That never
man.
stopped me telling you guys the same ones you've heard.
Construction man, and he was went broke, and so he decided that the only way to get back on top was just go out there and work hard, and he had to file bankruptcy and everything. Finally, he got a couple of jobs, and he was driving these old pickup around, and finally got enough money that he rented a condo. He tired of that dump he was living in, so he rented this condo, and he was driving home that night, and it was going to be his first night in his new rented condo. So he drove up in front, and he parked, and he was getting out of his old truck, and this gal stand up on the second floor, and she waved at him and said, hey, you. And he said, who, me? She said, yeah, you. He said, oh. So he said, okay. So he went up. She said, come on in and have a drink. So went in and had a drink. So of course she went inside and put on, in the bedroom, put on her negligee and came back out. I don't know if I want this on film or not.
You're not gonna have to take your clothes off, are you?
So anyway,
How old are you?
she came back out and she said, well, she said, I tell you, let's just be real honest about this. She said, just take it out and put it right here in my hand. He said, what? She said, just take it out and put it right here in my hand. He said, well, okay. So he did. She said, now. She said, don't you ever park in my parking place again.
I hadn't heard that one.
Men laughing so hard.
That reminds me of the guy that had his oil well fire. I know you know this.
Yeah, Jose.
Yeah, I'll just leave it on. It'll just record. Okay, let Greta do it.
Greta will film you.
Okay.
Sure, we'll get
It's
you.
on.
You're not the only guy who can.
That's right. That's right.
Point and shoot.
Let's see.
It's on.
This fella, he went in, they got a little partnership going, and just look at the picture.
I'm not pushing a button or anything. I'm just looking at the picture.
Anyway, he guess he and his buddies were doing a little wildcat oil well, and they stretched as far as they could, and they were really on a shoestring deal, and by golly, they hit oil, but it came out and was on fire, like happens when they really hit some of the big gushers, and the fire was just raging, and they thought, God, there's a lot of oil down there, but we got to get it out. How can we do it? That costs millions of dollars to have that put out. He said, we called Red Adair and get him to come blast and put it out. And they called Red, and he said, well, he could do it, but it would cost about $3 million. And they thought, oh, geez, we're in real trouble. So they got a hold, found out that old Jose was just starting in the business of putting out these fires. And so they made a deal with Jose to put it out for $25,000. And so, and they thought, well, he probably can't do it, but we got no other choice. So they had Jose show up the next morning, and he shows up in this rickety old stake bed truck on the hill overlooking the little valley where the fire is just roaring. And all these guys are serapes and their sombreros, and he comes up there and he pauses just a little bit at the top, and then he just goes right down that hill and into that fire, and the Mexicans are out there stomping on that fire and with their serapes and their sombreros, and my God, they didn't get it out. They got it out. And this guy runs down there in all the smoke, and these guys are Mexicans are dragging out all blackened and everything, and he's, Jose, he said, we got the cash right here, 25,000, thank goodness. You did a good job. He said, what are you going to do with all that much money? He said, well, the first thing I'm going to do is get the brakes fixed on this fucking truck.
You don't remember telling me that one about the two Polacks and the and the Mexican, the Polak, and the Chinaman. They're all up on this burning building, and the fire's coming up, and the fire department comes with the big deal that you jump in. So the Polak, the Mexican says, these guys are, come on, jump. And the Mexican says, no. He says, it's too high.
Looked like a trampoline, big net.
He says, go ahead and jump. And he said, no. He said, too high. He said, no, that's the only chance you got, jump. So he jumps, and just as he gets there, they go, ole, like that, and hits the ground. So, and then Chinaman, he's standing there, he says, well, jump. The guy said, no, I don't want to jump. It's too high. He says, no, it's too high. And he said, no, we won't do that again. We won't do that. We'll leave it. Come on, jump. So he jumps, and about the time he gets there, they go, ole, and he splats. So the Polacks stand there, and he's looking at him, and they're saying, come on, jump. We won't do it again. He said, oh, no, I ain't jumping. He said, you guys put that flat on the ground, and all of you get away from it, and then I'll jump.
That's good. I hadn't heard that. what about the onion grower and the,
Uh-oh.
Hey, don't be talking.
the onion grower, the professor, and the lawyer, and they were all stranded on the island, and one of them was gonna swim for help. The onion grower went first, and the sharks got him just like that. He was gone, right? And so then they sent the professor, and the professor says, "Oh, it's no problem at all. Those sharks won't touch me." He takes off and he swims for help, and the sharks got him too. They could see the blood in the water. And then the lawyer went, and the lawyer made it all the way to the shore. Professional courtesy.
You heard about the Jewish guy? The Jewish
old
guy?
one.
The Jewish guy and the Arab and the lawyer? You heard that? They got stranded on the road, and the only place to go was this farmhouse. So they went up to this farmhouse and asked them if they could stay there. And the farmer said, well, yeah, but he said, you know, we got a lot of kids and everything. The only place you could stay would be out in the barn. Well, that's all right. So they went out in the barn. So pretty soon, no, they had a place for two guys inside, but one guy had to sleep in the barn. So the Jewish guy said he'd go out there, so he went out there. Pretty soon he came in and said, I can't sleep out there, I'm sorry. He said, why? He said, there's hogs out there. He said, that's against my religion, I can't sleep out there with a bunch of hogs. So the Arab said he'd go out there. So the Arab went out there, and pretty soon he came back in and he says, I can't sleep out there. He says, I'm a Hindu. He says, they got, cows out there. And he said, I can't sleep with them. So the lawyer said, oh, well, you guys drive me nuts. He said, I'll go out there. So he went out there, and the cows and the pigs came in the house.
Oh, the poor lawyers.
I got one that's a little off color. But it's not anywhere.
Well, if it's off color enough, then I can tell it all, brother.
Okay. The Lone Ranger. Remember Hi-Ho Silver and the Lone Ranger?
Oh, yes.
Oh, yeah.
We invented it.
Lone Ranger and wasn't it the Lone Ranger? Wasn't it Trigger? Was that his horse?
No.
Silver.
Silver. Okay, the Lone Ranger and Silver. They get captured by Indians, and the Indians have got the Lone Ranger, and they've trussed him up, and they're not going to let him go. And he whispers into Silver's ear, and Silver takes off like a bullet, boy. And he comes back like a speeding bullet with a gorgeous blonde on this horse. I mean, a gorgeous blonde. The blonde unties the Lone Ranger, and he's thinking, this is pretty good. So he whispers in Silver's ear again, and he streaks off, and he comes back with this brunette. Beautiful brunette. Which is fine. They get their things camaraderie, and they're gonna beat the Indians, right? And then he whispers in Silver's ear one more time, and he says, "Posse! I said posse! Bring the posse!"
I don't understand.
You dumb horse. Pat Burlap told that joke.
Well, I gotta tell them
One more.
one more. The Pat Fleming joke.
Oh, yeah.
This is kind of a religious joke. Anyway, this guy was out on, let's say it was on Christmas Eve, and he was drunker than hell, and he thought, well, everybody's going to midnight mass, and that isn't right, because it was an evangelistic thing. Anyway, so he decided it was the summertime, the big tent, like they're having in Tucson about now. And he decided he'd wander down there and see what's going on. He'd been just drinking up in the storm, and he goes staggering, and he stands in the back of the tent, weaving around, and listens to the preacher bring everybody up, and he's getting all wrapped up in this, and finally the preacher says, come on down and be saved. Come down and tell all your sins. Tell it all, brother. So they all go down there telling all the things that they've done wrong, and finally he staggers down there, and he gets all caught up in the spirit of the moment, and he says, well, I've been drinking way too much in all my life. Tell it all, brother.
Tell it all, brother. Tell it all.
And it everybody kind of
Hallelujah. Tell it all,
he
brother.
was really laying it out, and he'd been with all these women that weren't his wife. Tell it all.
Tell it all, brother. Tell it
I
all.
stole money every chance I get. And
Tell it all, brother.
Tell it all, brother. Tell it all, brother. And he was just pouring out all these different crimes. And finally he said, and one time I fornicated with a goat. There's a pause and the preacher says, I don't believe I'd have told that.
Brother.
Pat Fleming was very good at that.
Don't believe I told that one.
Pat's an attorney in Washington D.C., our nation's capital. And I met him with, when I worked with McCulloch Properties, who did Lake Havasu City, and then they did Pueblo West.
The London Bridge.
And I met him with the Pueblo West project, and then they joined the ski group and went on downhill from there. How about that?
That's a good one.
That's where Tamara is going, to Lake
Oh,
Havasu.
she told us when we were on the bike ride.
Yeah, it's a really neat place, huh?
It's
Oh,
such
it
a
is.
small
Have you
community,
been
you can't get in too much trouble, I mean,
You
children just
haven't
have a
been?
good time.
It really is good.
Good.
place.
She left
When's the
a,
last time you were there?
left a
We were
note
there, what,
saying
4
that
years ago?
she was going to Colorado after
We
Lake Havasu.
accidentally spent spring break in Havasu 4 years ago with Kathy. We didn't know it was spring break. We had Kathy visiting us who was a young child, and we thought, oh, well, we'll take a trip in our fifth wheeler and we'll go to the London Bridge in Havasu. Everybody else was there, and they were all under 20.
And they're all heading for Port
We escaped
Mexico
that.
now.
We
It was a
escaped
real-
that
It was
today.
a real, I mean,
Yeah.
well, the fireworks went, and there was a lot of noise, I mean, because they were
tell
awake
you-
all night. They don't sleep at night, they sleep until noon, you know.
Ed was a very
Oh.
good driver today. He saved our lives twice.
Really?
way.
Oh, what did you encounter on the
Jose,
way?
what do you want to do? Shut it off?
Yep. What's that?
Coming back from